The East brothers, whoever those are.
But
yeah, East brothers.
Some people were called sons of female dogs.
Such a big unlock happened in the history, and we won't have such another big unlock in the history of Solana.
Catch me at the conferences, bro. I will throw hands.
That seemed to be much more important than the attention it got. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Soul Brothers with my dear friend Eno and myself. And at Soul Brothers, it is our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole and show you around in our exciting ecosystem.
Our mission is to help you stay on top of the latest and greatest in the Solana ecosystem so that you never run out of fun things to talk about. Simon, am I at the taping of the gun show or what? You got you're wearing sleeveless. You're wearing you look good, man. Cue all the gay jokes that we've been getting this week.
Just came back from gym.
Oh, you just came? Okay, so you got the pump going?
Yeah, bro. Like I literally just get back from the gym. It is morning time right now where I'm streaming and recording from, and usually I have my workout at like 8 a.m. ish, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And usually I just arrive back from there when we kick off our recording. So either I'm still in gym wear or just transitioned out of it. So it's either or.
Yeah.
Of those two.
Yeah, I mean, so one little fun fact about Simon that people probably don't know about is that every single country he goes to, the first thing that he does is he finds a gym. Like he did it when he went to Japan, he did it when he went to Korea, he did it when he was in Dubai, he did it in Malaysia, he does it just everywhere he goes.
It's just my life, man. Like it's people always ask me, like how do you keep your consistency and how do you keep your routine when you travel? And I'm like, I don't know any other life. Like I don't really, for me this is just standard. Like I go somewhere, I find a gym, I walk inside, I get a week pass, I start training every day, and I work after. So my routine is always the same, doesn't matter where I am. But anyway, it is good to be here again. I think we have so much shit to talk about. I can't wait for kicking off some of the topics, because every single week right now, crypto feels exactly like Meow told us. You wake up in the morning and you get slapped in the face by crypto. I love that quote, by the way. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a living meme already. And we're looking at prices that are, kind of in the region where we don't want them. Solana keeps dropping, so definitely something we want to talk about today. Why is that happening? What is happening? We still have a few of crypto product launches on Solana that happen still, even in this kind of bearish environment. People are announcing product updates, which is bullish. So we're going to dive into some of these topics as well today. And then obviously we need to talk, about SIMD 0228, because last week we kind of kicked off a discussion about it. And today we can already talk a little bit about some results. So let's also talk about SIMD today. There's so much on the agenda. I don't even know where to start. How do you feel going into this week? With all these things on our agenda.
I say this every single week, it feels, which is, I want to pay attention to the exciting things, which is like product launches. But at the same time, like, obviously we have to talk about the cultural piece, and also just to be quite honest, like SIMD 228 is beyond, it goes beyond just culture. It's a real question about what is the monetary policy of Solana. So I'm very excited to talk about some of the updates in the Solana ecosystem, but certainly I kind of miss bear market vibes a little bit, because like back in the deep bear market, it was just product updates. Yeah, no, because you only had hardcore builders who were just talking about all the bullish things about what Solana could be. And now we have these impossible expectations to live up to. So yeah, it's a lot all the time.
Actually, fair. It's true, but I also miss the bull market vibes, because life's just better when prices are up. Like it's just let's be real. Everyone is happy. The timeline looks good. People making money in crypto. Everyone, like if you join early or if you join right now, it doesn't really matter. Everyone is just more positive right now. People are emotional, and I don't like that, because of prices mainly, right? It is what it is. But I think that's probably what we should talk about first. A little bit about prices, a little bit about where Solana at. So let's kick it off with some price discussions and some charts, and then transition into why are we at these prices and what happened in the last days that made Solana, do what it's doing right now. So shall we begin over there? How does that sound?
I always look forward to your TA because I honestly don't know how to read a chart to save my life. So Simon, please take it away.
Okay, cool. So let's make sure to start again by zooming out first. We don't want all the noise in our charts. We want to see first what's going on in the view just from all the way above. So, okay, we're looking at the daily chart of Solana right now. We're trading at $126 right now, which is fairly low. And the first thing we see looking at the daily chart is that we are definitely in a range of psychological resistance. Why do I say that? Because we literally had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bounces already in the past, 2 months, actually year, sorry, in the past 12 months, from this area where we're in right now. So it is a very strong psychological resistance here, because traders look at the chart and they will see, alrighty, we've been here before and we bounced back a lot. So there's a lot of resistance in that area. And it was used as a support to hold the price where it is or higher in the past 12 months. And we can also observe this by looking at the volume of buying and selling pressure combined. And we see that in the range right now where we're trading, we're actually starting to fall into some sort of gap where we don't have a lot of buying pressure and a lot of selling pressure, which usually opens the door for, if the resistance breaks, a quite sudden drop. We actually saw that before already in August 24, when we did crash through that resistance right here where we're hovering. And there was like one big daily wick to the downside. And it happened a few times that we kind of crashed through it, but we recovered also quickly up again. So I think from just looking at the long-term chart, daily chart, and the volumes over here, we can definitely observe that either we're bouncing back from here, or we see one more low. That could also happen quite suddenly. The buying pressure right now is still not highly oversold. The RSI is right now hovering at 35, usually between 30. It is an area where traders start accumulating again and buying in heavily, and we're very close to that. So we're looking at a pretty bearish chart. We're looking at a lot of selling pressure in the market. There could be more, but we're looking at a lot of selling pressure. We're looking at a resistance, historical resistance. So usually from here, the price does something. It usually bounces back. And we're also looking at a price that is way below the moving average. That is usually also a good indicator to see if we're in a zone where it's better to buy or in a zone where it's better to sell. And usually below the moving average that you see in my daily chart here, it is not a bad idea to accumulate tokens, because we might start bouncing back and above again. So that's a few kind of directional moves that we can see from here. Just maybe last little bit of information looking at the more short-term outlook here. This is the 30-minute chart. Like I said, we're trading right now at 126. We're in the sideways range since like 24 hours now. But long story short, I think we could see one more low. I think right now, especially since we broke most of the resistances for kind of a recovery rally to the upside, because right now we're back at the February 28 low. So it couldn't, what's happened in the past kind of couple of weeks here can't be a wave 2, because we're too low for that. So we need, either we bounce back from here and go sideways again, or we see one more low. I think we could see one more low. The next big resistance is at $120, and then the last one at $109. So I think both of these are very high chances to hold. And then from there, we could see another recovery rally. And this rally could either take us into a new all-time high, or into a recovery rally around the $200 mark, and then another drop. So those are the options we have right now. I would be careful right now trading this chart. I think it's not a bad idea to position yourself a bit more bullish right now, because we're oversold. And I think it's kind of a very risky idea right now to go much more shorter on the market, because we are already pretty oversold. So that's pretty much it. That's what the Solana price is telling us right now. And there's also a lot of fundamental reasons for why we are in these prices. And I think I would love to double click on a few of these, because there has been quite some happenings in the past weeks and days.
And one other thing I'd love to highlight is kind of what the inflows and outflows on Solana look like over the last 30 days, which might even help explain some of the price action. So if you
Cool.
just look at this wonderful graphic that was created by Cointelegraph, we have like over 160 million flowing probably back to Ethereum after some people have done some meme
Mm,
coin experimentation. Some folks probably returning back home to Arbitrum as well as BNB chain, Base as
mm,
well. I think that the outflows to Sonic feel a little disingenuous because Sonic is an
mm.
SVM, and it's just likely that some people
Set and
are very
spec.
bullish on. Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
all in all, though, yeah, it's close to $500 million worth of capital that has exited Solana over the last 30 days, which is a trend
Mm,
reversal from what we've been seeing from the months prior. People have been wanting to get meme coin exposure, and some of the best meme coins are on Solana. Also, most of the scams are on Solana as well. So that does explain why I think that there's a return to capital or outflow from Solana back to other chains.
mm. Interesting. Yeah, well, I think looking at the number, so for everyone who's listening to the pod right now, we did pull up a chart as well that shows the outflows of Solana in the month of February, and it was $485 million to be accurate. And then just explained where these 500, almost $500 million flew to, and obviously a big chunk goes to the Ethereum ecosystem. I think that's almost half. It's actually more than half of it that flew back to Ethereum, either directly to mainnet or to Arbitrum. The reasons can be twofold. I think one big reason for this is that traders and investors right now do see Ethereum as highly undervalued.
Mm.
Solana had quite a good run. We're still now again we're pretty undervalued as well because we arrived at $120, which has historically been a very good buying zone for Solana. Anyway, traders and investors saw Ethereum doing pretty much nothing in the past 12 months, like just
Mm.
going sideways. Like there's not a lot of action, so it's quite bearish in the Ethereum camp, which might be for people that are bullish on the long-term outlook for Ethereum, a good zone to buy in. So now they're just taking some of their, of their wins from the Solana ecosystem and take it back to Ethereum. That is one possible reason for these outflows that we saw. But we have to put it in perspective to all the inflows we saw in the months before that, which was definitely much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I are in all the chat rooms and obviously keeping our eye on the timeline. Clearly, the vibes were off at ETH Denver this year. ETH Denver is the mecca
Yeah.
of ETH events, and it just seems like it didn't hit this year. It felt very corporate branded, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everyone's a little down in the Ethereum side, and you know what? As much as we are a Solana Maxi podcast, really what's best for the entire ecosystem is for everyone to do well. Like I certainly don't take any joy out of watching
Mm.
Ethereum struggle. I hope that they find their way and that the Ethereum Foundation is able to bring back the vibes. A little skeptical that they can, but certainly am wishing that for them. So best of luck to our brothers on the other side.
The East brothers, whoever those are.
The
But yeah, East brothers. Maybe we should do a spin-off at some point when this
Oh
is not
my
working.
god. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen, guys. But hey, I think outflows one big thing, but I also want to talk about unlocks. Not only outflows, Sol outflows were big, but Sol unlocks were also big. We did
Yeah.
see a lot of Solana unlocks, actually historically the most we ever had. What does it mean if we talk about unlocks? If you are an investor into a blockchain project before it launches its public token, you are usually in the private investment round and you are tied to certain what we call cliffs and vesting schedules. So investors that invest in a project, they are following some sort of vesting schedule. And with the whole FTX drama going down, back when it happened, there were a lot of funds that are associated with the Alameda and FTX drama that were still back then also tied in some lockups and vesting schedules, and these funds, they have been handed over to the people that manage the resolution of the whole FTX drama, right? And the funds are still there. They're basically part of the FTX estate, and there is people making decisions upon these funds. And we were looking at the unlock schedule, and we saw there's going to be a big amount of these FTX estate funds in Sol being unlocked in the 1st of March. And it actually happened. It was $1.5 billion worth of Solami, which is a lot of Solami. And we actually never saw such a big unlock happen. in the history, and we won't have such another big unlock in the history of Solana. So it's literally the most tokens that can unlock at a point in time. And what happened was that, and we covered it, I think, before, the unlocks got bought mainly by big investors like Galaxy, Pantera. Like there have been a few big investment funds that do liquid investments in tokens that just bought off the unlocked funds from the FTX estate at a very good discount. They literally bought the Solana sub $100 because they bought them OTC over the counter, again with usually tied to some vesting and some lock schedule that is tied to the deal. So that is actually pretty bullish, because we have diamond hands. These big funds are usually people that are involved deeply in the Solana ecosystem. They've been here since a long time. They're not done yet with Solana. So if they buy Solana at a discount, they will hold on to it for longer. They're not dumping, and they haven't dumped. So that was pretty bullish, I would say. I think what happened, to sum it up, we had a big buy or sell the rumor kind of thing that happened the months prior to the unlocks in March. And now we had kind of a buy the news situation where people were like, okay, the unlocks happened. We're already pretty badly down. We're not dropping more than right now. Okay, I think it might be over. Let's just buy back. And then that's where we are right now. We're in this kind of sideways range where people are unsure of what's happening next. And actually, I believe it's pretty bullish, because we won't see such big unlocks again, which means we got the worst behind us. And that's great. That is actually a bullish outlook. So that's my take on this whole unlock schedule. What do you think, Eno?
Yeah, 100% agree. Specifically, the point that I liked was that you have a lot of diamond-handed holders now, and obviously we don't give financial advice on the show, but if they feel confident buying Solana OTC at size, this isn't small amounts of salami we're talking about. We're talking so much salami that you could open up a pizza shop and just sell deep dish meat lovers pizzas all day. I mean, it's a lot of salami. And I really like that, but I like that a little too much. But but yeah, obviously it's very bullish if they're willing to buy so much at size. And looking at what is this pie chart? What is this telling us?
So I just pulled up a page here from Masari that is looking at the token unlocks for the Solana ecosystem. It's one of the sources you can use. Usually the numbers you see at these pages here, they don't necessarily need to be 100% accurate. They're based on the data that Masari has for the Solana blockchain right now. And I would deem it as fairly accurate. So what you can see on the chart here, it's actually pretty good URL to visit, solana.mesari.io/token-unlocks. You can check out the allocations of Solana right now. So basically, where are all the tokens? And you can see how much percentage the foundation is holding, what the investors still have, what the team is holding, the community reserve, and so on. So that's pretty cool. And then you also have the unlock schedule per month. And that's what I wanted to hint at, because here we can see March, a huge ass green candle, which means there has been a lot of unlocks happening in March. As I said, we're talking about 1.1 billion, almost $1.5 billion worth of SOL, which is more than 11 million Solana tokens, which is a lot of Solana. And that's the biggest unlock we have. We can see here in the whole year. There's another unlock happening in May. So it's probably going to be on the 1st of May, which is 9 million worth of Solana. So 70,000 Solana tokens, which seems ridiculously small compared to what we had right now. So bottom line, huge Solana unlock just happened in March 2025, and we won't see another one like this again.
Yeah, and that's not the only thing that might be affecting Solana's price action. Also, over the last couple of, I think it was last Friday, if I'm not mistaken, over at the White House, they had the first crypto summit, officially sanctioned and organized by the U.S. government. And obviously, going into, here's the thing, I understand why so many people sell the news, like buy and sell the news, really, because there's all this anticipation going into these so-called big events. Like there was that tweet from Trump on Truth Social that we covered last week, where he said, like, the United States Crypto Reserve will have Solana, XRP, ADA, and then the follow-up tweet that was like, and of course, Ethereum and Bitcoin. But this time around, what we were expecting a lot more than this, right? What did we actually get? Well, what we ended up getting was a U.S. strategic BTC reserve, And that on its face looks very sexy. And then you look at the details and it's kind of like, who gives a shit? This is 200,000 Bitcoin that the US government had already seized, probably through some operations through the FBI or maybe the SEC as well. We've already paper handed about like $17 billion worth of Bitcoin. And so I'm not entirely sure that what we got or what we were promised before the summit and what we have right now, which is just we promised not to sell the Bitcoin that we already have. I mean, certainly it's good that we're willing to call it a certain thing. I guess giving it a name
Mm,
makes it a proper official thing, like it's a Bitcoin reserve, but it's not like we're acquiring more. And I have other opinions about whether or not that's even a good thing for a government to do. But bottom line is now we have a Bitcoin reserve. It's the United States has a Bitcoin reserve. It's comprised of the Bitcoin that we've seized, through multiple, I'm sure, criminal operations or tax fraud, right? What
yep.
was your reaction to the March 7th summit over at the White House?
Yeah, so I pretty much, without saying I knew everything, but I was pretty sure that we're not going to see any crazy news from the White House summit. It was more like a signaling what went down there. I think Trump and also David Sachs, the announced crypto czar of the White House, who has been appointed for all things digital assets in the White House. Like, I think they just want to show that they care. They want to show that they talk about these topics, and they also want to test. They want to put their finger in the wounds and see like who's actually reacting to this, positive and negative. I think they're just trying to see what they are actually allowed to do with this whole digital asset strategy they have. So at the White House itself, you had executives there from Coinbase, from Kraken, Gemini, Bitcoin Magazine, Solana, Chainlink. So a few big boys, definitely, and ladies at the table that talked about all things crypto. But then at the end of the day, there was nothing that came out of this that was huge, that will change anything. They basically want to push the stablecoin legislation forward, which is good. That's positive. They will have more certainty around stablecoins, which is very important. But this obviously didn't move the market. And then lastly, my comment and my whole kind of 2 cents on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. First and foremost, it is bullish for the crypto market. We haven't, it's good to see on the White House page in the news section that we talk about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We haven't. I think years from now, earlier we wouldn't think this is realistic. now it's there, so that's good. That's very good. But now the more critical points to this. First of all, it's completely right. Eno said already they are basically, first of all, they're checking their accounts. So they told, okay, any government agency needs to check how much BTC they're holding and report it back to the Treasury. And then the Treasury Department is going to be mandated to, watch over all the BTC that is held by all the agencies right now. And so that's happening right now. In the next kind of 30 days, they said they should review the BTC holdings and then transfer them to the Treasury. So they're kind of, putting that all under one umbrella, which is, I think, good. They're just structuring it properly. But those BTC are usually from seized campaigns from the US, right? From criminal activities. There's one a big portion of the BTC that US is currently holding that is actually from a Bitfinex hack. And the funds will probably most likely be returned at some point to Bitfinex. So that is just something I want to mention here as well. I think like not all the BTC right now that are in the hands of the Treasury and all the agencies will actually stay with the government. We will actually see most likely some of these funds return back to in this case Bitfinex. I think it was more than 50%. More than 50% of the BTC that is currently reported to be held by the US government, more than 50% was seized from Ilya Lichtenstein and Rezel Khan, whatever that was, convicted hackers of Bitfinex. I didn't follow that back then, but those were the hackers of Bitfinex, and it appears to be returned to the exchange and thus not eligible to be part of the reserve. So that leaves only around $8 billion from the currently reported $17 billion in the worth of Bitcoin in the reserve. So that's
Guys,
the current status one. Yeah.
Guys, this is why you have to tune in every single week. Like, I do this as a job, and still Simon is teaching me things. Like, I love that. I'm like, I had no idea. Like, over
Okay,
50%.
so
So,
much
okay,
stuff.
so let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You're saying that 50% of this so-called reserve will most likely at
Yeah.
some point in time be returned back to Bitfinex. We're just kind of custodying it for the
Yeah.
time being.
Exactly. 112,000 units of Bitcoin. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
112,000
that
Bitcoins, which is a lot of it.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't take away from the fact that there is this concerted effort to, especially the part that I like is that we're bringing all that Bitcoin under the umbrella of one agency, right? So like at least for this administration, and who knows for the next, it just kind of depends on whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. But
Two more things in the executive order that I think are worth pointing out. One is they basically put out a rule that is mandating the Treasury to not sell any Bitcoin. So that's just one thing. It's written in the executive order. The Bitcoin reserve shall not be sold and shall be maintained as reserve assets for the United States. So basically, that's good. They're not trying to sell anything, but they also said in the executive order that the Treasury shall develop strategies for acquiring additional government BTC, provided that such strategies are budget neutral, whatever that means, and do not impose incremental costs on your United States taxpayers. We don't really know what that means. That's just written in the executive order. Obviously, what is a budget neutral acquisition strategy for BTC? Could be some deals with SMA. I have actually no idea what that means. But the whole point is they are also talking about buying Bitcoin, not only holding.
yeah, I mean, the United States makes money beyond just collecting taxes. I mean, the majority of it is taxes. So I'm assuming that there might be some treating the United States government like a business. If there's some way to turn a profit and then use that profit to buy assets in a strategic reserve, I'm pretty sure that's the only way that the Trump administration can get away with that without public outrage, right? Where we have an outrageous deficit in the United States. The United States dollar is losing value year over year. Obviously, the strongest and king of all fiat currencies in relation to other fiat currencies. But that being said, it would be immensely irresponsible for the United States government to be using taxpayer dollars in a deficit situation to buy strategic digital assets. As bullish as I am for the ecosystem, and it would be great theoretically for the United States to buy billions of dollars of Solana, billions of dollars of Bitcoin, billions of dollars of Ethereum. That's all great, but at the expense of the normal American taxpayer, I'm not entirely certain that's a responsible thing to do.
I mean, it's a reserve, right? This reserve should kind of function as a reserve for hard time. Like there's usually some strategic twist to having a reserve, and that's all. By the way, it's still a question for some economists. They're like, okay, why do we need a Bitcoin reserve? I saw this one clip from this older gentleman, like an economist that has no idea what the heck we're doing here in this crypto world, and he was like, well, Bitcoin has no use case. Why would you, like, it's just numbers on a screen. Why would you put it in a US government reserve? So he was like one of these people, very critical. Obviously, he should first study what Bitcoin really is and what we can do with it already. But also, to a degree, there's something right here. Like if you have a strategic oil reserve, obviously you can use that oil in times of hardship to do something like produce energy or fuel your cars. I don't know. If you have a strategic gold reserve, I don't know what you can do with it, but obviously you might manufacture things with it, but you can also use it as something to trade with in times of hardship. Strategic Bitcoin reserve might be that for the future. So that would be the case for the reserve, I think. But there needs to be a strategic reason to have a US government reserve. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, overall, I think this is a bullish thing for crypto to have a reserve, even though we didn't touch on this yet, the digital asset stockpile, which is the second topic that was discussed in the executive order and also in the White House summit, is kind of sketchy. Like I don't really know what that means again, because they basically say, okay, the strategic Bitcoin reserve will hold Bitcoin, will maybe also buy Bitcoin, and then we have the digital asset stockpile, which is actually not doing anything. It is kind of the garbage can where you just put everything, you have no idea what it is. So all the altcoins that the government right now is holding, and we don't know what it is, but it's actually not a lot. It's like 10K worth of something. Like 97% of crypto holdings right now are Bitcoin. And then you have a few altcoins, they will be part of the digital asset stockpile. And there's no buying strategies that have been mentioned for the stockpile. There's like no real details. So for me, it just seems right now as this kind of garbage can for tokens we have no idea what they are, altcoins, and we're going to park them in the digital asset stockpile because it sounds cool and fancy.
Look, Simon, I think I'm just going to have to agree to disagree with you on this one, because I'm just saying this was the most limp dick way to launch a strategic reserve. And secondly, it's not strategic in any way. If I was to play a word association game and I said Trump, right? Strategy would not be in the first 100 words that I would associate with that man. But certainly I could see future value in having a strategic BTC reserve. And so begrudgingly, I might even admit that, in the future that this might be key to economic security. We might even, believe it or not, collateralize the US dollar a little bit with Bitcoin. I'm a fan of hard money. That's a far-fetched use case, but would love to see collateralization of the US dollar with assets like BTC. But that being said, that's not even, like, there's so much news that, again, fire hose of information, but there's that. And just to touch on this really quickly, but did you see that news about NASDAQ? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, that seemed to be much more important than the attention it got, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, the NASDAQ, I think, is starting. The New York Stock Exchange is starting to realize that, okay, in order to compete with crypto, which is 24/7 markets, right? And I don't know if this must be, if it's 24. The NASDAQ is also saying that they're going to enable 24-hour trading, but does that include the weekends, or is that just the weekdays?
I am pretty sure it is the weekdays, but I actually have no idea.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And scheduled to come into effect at some point in the second half of 2026. But having been a part of the GameStop GME saga, very early Wall Street bets enjoyer, I don't know how this is going to work, because at least on the NASDAQ, if a stock increases, I think, more than like 10 or I think maybe 20% within a short enough time period, they halt trading on the stock. So, and in crypto, there's no halting of trading of a token. It doesn't make sense, right? You can't stop the chain. If people want to send transactions, they can send transactions. Whereas on the NASDAQ, if a token increases in price over 20%, and I think in a 10 or a 15, 30 minute let me try that again.
Increment?
Increment. Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't speak English today.
I got you.
So,
I got you.
Yeah, but there is stock halting on the NASDAQ if the price of an asset increases 20% or 15%, 10% within a small enough time increment, whether it be like 10, 15, 30 minutes. I forget the exact numbers. So I don't really know what the Trump administration and what the NASDAQ are trying to do there as it pertains to, are they going to continue the practice of stock halts, or are they really going to try to compete toe-to-toe with crypto and have 24-hour markets? And just on the weekdays it's a good first step. I think it's bullish. It's cool.
It is bullish, but also it is 2026 second half, so what the heck, like that feels like an eternity for me. They should, I understand they want to compete with digital assets, but until then Solana is already going to be the status quo for the world. Like, I don't even know what's going to happen until 2026 second half, but a lot of stuff can happen until there. That's my last take on the whole Nasdaq news. Not gonna lie, it's kind of a long timeline.
We got like a lot more shit to cover, so let's just like briefly cover SIMD 228 and where we are there. Yeah, so the vote is live, ladies and gentlemen. There is a war to reduce Solana inflation. Totally understand the reasons for why the network wants to reduce Solana inflation overall. Of course, SIMD 228, Solana Improvement Document 228, proposes dynamic emissions, right? which should, by Tolia's estimation, if you look at a couple of tweets, reduce overall inflation of the network by a scale of 1 to 2 billion per year, right? So when we talk about Solana unlocks, we're talking about a once in a generation $1.5 billion worth of Solana just being potentially dumped into the markets, right? But on an annual basis, if you look at the emissions that are paid out to validators, you're looking at about like $1 to $2 billion worth of money spread across 1,500 validators, right? So just do the napkin math. That's very, very expensive for decentralization of the network. And so the theory is that with dynamic emissions, you'll be able to more efficiently pay validators and reduce overall inflation of the network. And the results, man, overwhelmingly yes. Of the votes casted with tokens, like 76% yes rate and a 23% no rate. What do you make of the current results and where we are with that discussion, SIMD228?
So one important side note before I answer the question: we're not done with the vote. We also haven't reached the minimum hurdle rate yet, which is 33% participation, and only then the answer that has been selected the most, basically the result of the vote, will become reality. So we still have another epoch to run through until this vote concludes, which is approximately 1.5 days from now, from Monday this week. So by the time this podcast is live on YouTube and on the podcast apps, we will probably have concluded this vote, and you guys can check it out on Twitter. Just ask Rob, he will know. But I think right now, we still need to reach the hurdle rate. So right now we're at 17% participation of 33. Let's see if we're going to make this until the last epochs are over. And then secondly, yes, we see 12% compared to 3.8%. Yes versus no. And yes is obviously leading with that. And I think it was already quite obvious that this is going to happen because of the reason that a lot of big bag holders are backing this proposal. It was proposed by Multicoin. It got a lot of support from Anatoly himself and people around him. So we see that people that are probably running validators with quite some delegation and quite some stake, they will vote yes for this. And that is not just a idea I have. There's actually proof of this. I checked a different Dune chart yesterday where you can see the type of validator and what this type voted. So basically you can see that all the validators that have very, very big size of Solana delegated to them, like the whales, the validator whales, what do you think they voted? They all voted yes. And then everyone who voted no are smaller to mid-sized validators. That's literally a fact. So you can see this kind of, yeah, it's not really, there's like two camps that we can see voting this.
Yeah, this is very much a battle between the haves and the have-nots, and clearly the haves are winning because they got most of the voting power. So I guess early congratulations to you fuckers. There was this wonderful piece written by Lily Liu, who's the president of Solana Foundation. She's also strongly in favor of no. She's on I worded that very confusingly. How can you be in favor of that's whatever? But yeah, she very much recommends that people vote no. And she wasn't looking at it from a validator perspective at all. She was looking at it from an institutional investor perspective who has created models based on the current inflation rate. But you know what? One thing that I somewhat disagree with Lily's point of view is that I think that it's if anything, it makes their models more bullish that there's less inflation in the network overall, and it should make it easier for a Solana ETF to be approved. So all in all, I feel for the smaller to mid-sized validators. I wish them luck. I think it's going to be a very tough few months. I think you also run a validator as well, Simon. So, I'm not quite so sure what the next few months are going to look like. Totally says the effect won't be as big as some people say, or he suspects that, but we won't really know until those changes come into effect. So,
yep, it's not over yet. So yeah, let's see for the final result of this, and let's hope that whatever it is, we're gonna figure it out. I think my final take is just that I'm a bit afraid of the all the second, third, fourth, fifth level kind of results and like the whole tail that this drags with it. That's what I'm afraid of,
Yeah.
because we don't know what else will change in the ecosystem if we adjust the emission rate. And we can make assumptions, we can run some models, then we will get a better understanding of it, but eventually we'll only find out if we do it. And then I'm afraid that we will have a lot of SIMDs after 228 that will try to put off the fires that 228 kind of lightened up. So we're trying to fix one thing, but then we're changing some of the base mechanics of Solana, and then by fixing this one thing, which is inflation rate, make this more market driven, which is essentially a good thing. We're also, switching all the other switches, and we might run into some problems.
Right.
So let's see if that's going to become reality, but that's what I would be afraid of. If I would be in Solana right now, which I am.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. That finally concludes. We are 45 minutes in, and that finally concludes just all the macro shit that happened on Solana. But aside from that, this is my favorite personal section, talking about all the exciting new launches and or kind of votes that are going on Solana. And I think we can jump just right into the biggest, juiciest stake, which aside from 228, probably the second biggest vote that's going on in Solana right now is the Meow 2030 lock-in plan, originally called the 555 plan, is what he called it in Catstanbull. And essentially, the long and the short of it is Jupiter has onboarded dozens of world-class engineers who need to build product, whether it be Jupe Research or JupeNet or their existing product line. And Meow would like to take his existing allocation of 280 million Jupe and spread that across to the new dozens of engineers that they have hired. And probably some allocation of that is going to be for future engineers that they hire over the next few years. And in exchange for that, the idea is that by 2030, so 5 years from now, he'll get an additional Jupe bonus of 220 million Jupe, which totals to 500 million Jupe in total. And the vote is whether we should give this bonus to Meow, which is an additional 220 million Jupe 5 years later, and he's fronting the initial 280 million. So in total, he would get compensated 500 million Jupe. And, to me, this is just such a no-brainer yes. And I know that we're sponsored by Jupiter Exchange, so there might be plenty of people watching the stream who's like, well, you're a part of the Jupiter cabal, so we can't trust anything you have to say. Wrong. I actually do care about Jupe bags. So I'm incentivized to vote for what's best for token, despite the fact that we are sponsored by Jupiter Exchange. But there's a lot of reasons for why I believe this. I would love to get Simon's take because I can expound upon this forever. But Simon, what's your kind of take on this lock-in vote plan?
When I first saw it, it was also like a no-brainer yes. When I first saw it, I read Meow's tweet. So Meow himself, he wrote a very long explanation of what's happening. Usually what he does when a big vote goes out. And I thought, okay, compensating your team disproportionately high compared to market standards, if you want to be disproportional successful compared to market standards, seems like a good thing to do. I think there's two reasons why I think it makes sense. One reason is they are competing with all the fucking most important companies of the world that are trying to get and acquire talent. So if you are a talented person out there and you're smart and you're a hard worker and you're highly motivated and you're literally willing to give up your life for working for someone because you believe that's the right thing to do, then you will have a few, doors that you can now open. The likes of Google and Facebook and all the big ones and a multitude of other companies that will offer you very, very good incentives to work for them. And that's what Jupiter and all of us as companies and employers are competing with. So how do you want to get these people on board? That's one thing you need to ask yourself. And for this, you have to, offer them something substantial. And that's what this proposal is trying to do. They're trying to offer the team members that join Jupiter now a substantial amount of Jupe, which translates obviously in US dollar value or whatever you want to do with it. So that makes sense to me. Like incentivize the people very, very highly to compete with these other crazy employers that are trying to get the talents for you. That's one thing. Second thing, you need to look at it from a not from a total amount of US dollar, but from a percentage of total supply, how much is being allocated to whom here. I believe that giving, for example, 7% of your total supply to the founder of the whole protocol, which is Meow in this case, doesn't seem to be horribly wrong. Because I think if you're bootstrapping your company since day zero, then build a fucking product, get the team out, go through thick and thin, basically all the shit that he did in the past, plus the next 5 years, which is it's not getting easier really. You're also going through that and committing yourself to go 5 years longer with this shit. Then you kind of have to get an incentive for that. And I'm not looking at the total number, like $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion. I don't give a shit. Like, because it sounds ridiculous. These numbers, they're so high. But the percentage sounds very fair. Like if I'm building all this shit and I'm literally giving up my life for this and I get 7% of the total cake, 7%, I think it's appropriate. Fucking Bezos has 9% of Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. Still, to this day, it's a lot. He didn't give up, everything. So I think it's all right. It seems fair to me. So that's like just my 2 cents on the whole topic. I voted yes at the end of the day, full disclosure as well, because I believe it is all right. I believe it makes sense. And I believe it's also the best thing for the protocol to have highly skilled people, highly incentivized to push this shit in the right direction.
Yeah. And two additional points that I think people kind of miss out in this discussion is people completely forget that the Jupiter team, the existing Jupiter team, plus Meow himself, took a really substantial cut to their token allocation to begin with, right? And they did that to instill confidence in the token. So this is, if anything, like getting some of that original, money that was, or Jupe tokens. Jupe tokens are money. Love Jupe tokens, but they're getting some of that back. And another thing I'd like to mention too is like it's not just like rando engineers that we're talking about acquiring. Like the Jupiter team has done a little bit of acqui-hire situations, so they're buying teams out outright, which is great because a lot of people don't talk about this, especially if you're not a builder. But it's one thing to hire an engineer one by one piecemeal. It's another thing to hire an entire team. And the reason why acqui-hires can be very powerful is because existing teams already have chemistry. And if you're fading chemistry and saying, so what, it actually matters because it means that team from day one, if they're given a mandate or something to work on, they can just start working on it without having to worry about who's doing what or what are the dynamics between personnel, like do people get along? That's all very, very important. And so the larger point I'm trying to make is that the people that are being hired are not just world-class engineers, they're also world-class founders in their own right. These are people who are giving up the opportunity cost of building out their own unicorns. And trust me, a lot of these teams could make their own, the teams that were acquired could make unicorns of their own right. But the mission at Jupiter is so exciting. Plus, Jupe has a very, very bright future, and Jupiter has a very bright future. So you need something to not only incentivize them, but to make up for the fact that they won't be working on their own companies anymore. And these are the best years of their life, the most productive years of their life. So it just makes sense to really highly compensate that. And in total, it's not a crazy amount that's being allocated to team, especially for a mega serious DeFi protocol. Last point is, guys, they gave 50% of the supply to community. So could we just be a little generous? I mean, like that's more of an emotional argument. That's less logical. But yeah, it just seems kind of a no-brainer from a fairness perspective and just like what is going to get all of our bags in the best position for a bull market.
What was the amount they gave in the two Jupiters? It was like a couple $1 billion. It was like 1 point something. It was like
yeah I don't know the exact amount.
So it was definitely over $1 billion.
It's several $1 billion.
Yeah, it was like several $1 billion in both Jupiters to the community versus now 280. What was the number? $1 million to the team, which is being discussed. So, yeah. And I can just put that in perspective. So yeah. I think that's all we're saying. Yeah. That's all we're saying. There's no right and wrong essentially with these questions. It really depends of your definition of right and wrong. But if we have a very market neutral person here that doesn't give a shit about anything, he won't find a right or wrong here, like playbook right or wrong, like out of the school book. because there's arguments for and against it, and we just have to go with what makes the most sense. And I think that's what Twitter is for, because here we can have open discussions, and that's happening right now. And that was our take of the Soul Brothers. And I think the vote is going to be live for another. Is it live for another kind of day or so? And then it shall conclude. What's the current state actually of this? Let me just check real
So
quick.
they used to publish that data very publicly, and now in order to avoid kind of like a Keynesian beauty contest where everyone is voting in the direction of where they think it's going to, they obfuscate that data. Now, obviously, you could just look on chain and figure that out yourself. I'm sure there's a Dune dashboard somewhere, but they don't have that readily available on the UI.
Okay, so we have 8 hours more to vote. Time from the live stream time right now. And if you are listening to this in the pod or on YouTube, then the vote concluded already 2 days ago.
And we have even more very cool announcements, especially in terms of products. So our friends over at Orca have released a new liquidity terminal. It's in beta. And, you know, you hear liquidity terminal, I'm like, okay, that sounds fine. But what the hell is it? Well, a liquidity terminal allows you to set the best positions for your liquidity with all the information and data that you need. So that includes real-time price charts. And this is really cool, predictive positioning, right? And predictive positioning, that sort of information given to you by the Orca liquidity terminal is great, because the one question that you ask yourself as a LPer is, what is the price range going to be for this asset pair so that I can put my liquidity in that range so that it's most efficient and I'm earning the most fees? And obviously, if you're not a hardcore Meteora trader, which, you know, if you're not a hardcore Meteora LPer, then, you know, this might be an easier option for you, because as much as I love Meteora, I think it is a phenomenal product. It has the best infrastructure, in my personal opinion, on Solana for liquidity provision, especially if you're trying to create custom curves. That being said, Orca is, I think, the liquidity terminal for normal average Joes that just want to get into it. It's very intuitive, easy to understand, and yeah, you have less options, but majority of people don't need that many options. And with predictive positioning, that's very, very powerful.
I think also the feature that is really cool in the liquidity terminal is the visualization in the live chart. So you can basically see the range of the price in the live chart where the price is trading. You can see the range where you are providing liquidity to. Kind of cool. It's just a visual feature. You can see it in the mock-up they posted on Twitter as well. So that's just, you know, ease of use for the LP, I would say. Makes it easier to understand what's happening. Cool feature.
And most people don't know, overall. But the co-founders of Orca are culturally Japanese. I actually don't know if they're incorporated in Japan or anything like that, but a lot of the team is kind of based in Japan. They have a new CEO. His name is Nate. The founder went back to being CTO because he really loves the coding. So congratulations, Nate. Congratulations, Isaac, for becoming the COO of Orca. You guys have obviously started cooking very, very hard. So I'm looking forward to Orca having a very, very good 2025.
Orca's great. And they've been around for so long. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I love to see that they are, you know, active. They're pushing more now. They're pushing announcements. They're active. They wanna show they're around. I love that. I want to see more of that. So yeah, W for Orca.
And on the culture side, like, man, oh man, lots of stuff going on here. There have been a string of very weird hacks that I am not a fan of. First, it was Jupiter. Then it was Pump.fun.
Yep.
And then it was Meow's account. And in each case, very limited exposure to multiple accounts having access. It's usually just a single person that has access to the account, maybe some delegation. Even in Meow's case, obviously no delegation of his account. And I don't understand. There's no data in the logs that shows that someone tried to log in. It just seems natural. So in the sense that they have access to the account already. So how is this happening? I am quite worried. I've seen some conspiracy theories. I don't know if you've also seen these, Simon. I'd love to talk about them, but like, what are your thoughts on all these weird fucking hacks? It's super odd.
It is odd, and I have no idea what's happening. And I think there might be some fuck ups within the Twitter X universe themselves. So either they have some security issues on their platform, which are being leveraged here, or they have some modes in the team. They have some people, you know, that are shady inside of their own ranks that are helping to facilitate these things. Those are the only options right now that I see for people being able to get or to get access to an account that is secured by 2FA and phone numbers and whatever.
Yeah, I feel so passionate about this. I feel like this needs to be investigated. I am shocked that this is not being investigated yet. Like, what the fuck? You cannot tell me that systematically crypto accounts are being hacked with no record or trace of someone trying to improperly log in from even, like, they might be able to spoof a certain location. I just mean there's literally no logs of it, which makes no logical sense. How are they getting access to these Twitter accounts? The conspiracy theory, just as Simon pointed out, is that someone has access to the Twitter admin portal, either a Twitter employee or someone outside of Twitter, or maybe even an ex-employee with a grudge that's just like, you know what? Fuck X, fuck crypto. We're just going to go max extraction. It is alarming, and I'm surprised this news hasn't blown it. Like, the individual accounts themselves, like, that news blows up, but there's no like real discussion about whether or not there is systematic hacking of crypto accounts using Twitter's admin portal, which I am not a fan of conspiracy theories, especially if you have literally zero evidence to back up your claims. But when you've exhausted all other logical options, then the impossible becomes improbable, right? So this is almost like, and I'm reaching here. I'm really reaching. So if someone out there actually has a better point of view about what's going on here, I'd love to hear it. But like, I honestly have not seen any serious discussion about how these how these accounts that are properly secured are being hacked.
It's scary. So stay safe out there, guys. There's not a lot we can do, but just monitor your account frequently. Make sure, because that's what they did correctly. So when Meow saw what's happening, I think it took like a minute or something maximum for them to secure the account and make sure that the tweet got deleted and shit like this. So I think that's all we can do. Like, just be on Twitter. It's a bit scary, and it hurts that this is the best option we have right now. But just be on Twitter and be aware of your account. And as soon as you see any malicious activity, change your password. Do whatever you can. Log out everywhere. And frequently check also what apps you're connected to on Twitter, because sometimes you open the API to a lot of apps, you delegate access to people that you forget. So make sure that you frequently check your settings on Twitter as well. Anyway, what else, what else is on the horizon?
One other hot take, though, Simon, and I'm really sorry to say this, I think we're biased because we cover this news every single week. So it's literally every week, Simon, we have at least one, maybe even 3 items on our agenda that's like, major account posts pump.fun CA, and people aped into it and lost, millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And so that's our bias. But what I want to say is that in this point in the game, if you are full porting or gambling on contract addresses that are posted from major accounts at this point in the game, you deserve to lose your money. I hope you lose your entire portfolio, because if you see the pump.fun and Meow like putting like, you really think the founder of Jupiter, who spends all of his time trying to find utility for Jupe, is going to post a pump.fun address? Like, get out of here. Like, seriously, I hope you go to 0.
Yeah, but that can't be our standard. While I fully agree with you, that can't be our standard to comfort ourselves and be like, yeah, it's fine. Just don't be stupid. Like, it's okay if major accounts get hacked. Like, because the problem with this, is that there's some normal people out there that have no idea, and they might stumble into this, and then Solana takes the hit. That is always what worries me the most. Our ecosystem is taking the hit because people point finger to fucking Anatoly, literally, and telling him in comments, oh, Toli, please make sure Solana is not rugging people. Like, it's not, like, what should Toli do?
Sure. So. And my mom thinks I work at Bitcoin. It's all the same thing. So, let's just quickly touch on 2 pieces of drama that we saw on the timeline this week as well. Lil Perp, who is one of the technical co-founders of Drift, posted that, Drift's USDC rates tend to be a little higher than Camino's. I thought it was a balanced post. It didn't seem that crazy. And then Camino in turn went full war, right? He's like, Drift yields are sometimes nominally higher. Drift has been hacked before. 90% of LTV on diesel when day 2 of diesel VAR is much higher than 10%. And so like just went full war, and not just Camino and Drift, but also Jupiter Mobile, got in a little spat with Backpack. Backpack had posted this video of different wallets and their speed. Obviously, you can see in the Backpack video, it's performing so called the fastest. And then in this case, like Jupiter's intern went full war against Backpack and showed a different video of the Jupiter wallet performing faster than Backpack. And it's not so much that I want to focus on any particular piece of drama, other than to say that during the Drift hack, or even any instance in which users have lost significant money on Drift, I've known from people who have gotten made whole by Drift that they Drift paid out of their own pocket to make sure that they were made whole. So that's one comment I'd make. But just in general, I want to see less of this. I don't really like this protocol on protocol fighting. It just kind of seems a little, I don't know, petty, annoying. And it's like, aren't we all friends? Like, I know Camino and Drift, like, they're kind of friends in the background. And same with Jupiter and Backpack. They actually, not so much the interns, but everyone else, like the founders, we all more or less get along. It's a friendly competition, but I don't like this drama on the timeline. Maybe you have a different take, but that's just kind of my first gut reaction to that.
Okay, let me give a different take, just for the sake
Sure.
of balancing things out here, and like, because always like I can confirm with you all the time, but that's boring. So let me tell you, I love this because because of two reasons. One is competition is very good for the market, and it can get spicy, especially on the crypto Twitter timeline. Sometimes words can hurt over there, but I like that we fight it out, and we're not insulting each other really. Like, I don't really see, they don't get personal right now in these tweets. I wouldn't like that. They don't really get emotional in these tweets. I wouldn't like that neither. To a degree, you can do it because it's crypto Twitter, but 80% of your posts here, if you're an intern for a major company like Camino or Drift or all the others, they should be based on arguments, fundamentals, which they try to do. They're very technical. I couldn't write these tweets because I don't know these things, these pro and contra arguments for my platform against your platform. I think this helps users to essentially understand better what product they should use, because we let them fight it out, give us all the reasons, and then we can go back to the drawing board and verify them ourselves and make our opinion. So I think these posts can actually be useful as well for me as a user to decide which protocol I like, because they are very transparent. And I think that's a good thing. Competition is a good thing because it makes these people compete with each other stronger, which in return leads to more important products on the flip side as well. So just a different take on it. I do agree, though, that I don't like the toxicity and the constant fight. And I thought it's a bit, it's funny as well. This is funny, by the way. Like, some people are just making fun of it. But I think it's also Solana Foundation literally posted this video the other day, right, where they said, Solana culture is built on competitive sportsmanship. We're all competitive, and they spotlighted these founders of major protocols and talked about, I'm a swimmer, I'm a race car driver, I'm whatever, I'm competitive, I compete against people, I kill, and I'm like, okay, if these are our protocol founders, don't be too surprised that sometimes the crypto Twitter timeline gets a bit spicy with people shouting against it. That's what Solana's about at the end of the day. So
yeah. And actually, if you could bring the screen up a little bit, just for 1 second. It's like, so some historical context here, like, people might not remember this, but like back in 2023, there was a major flame war between Save and MarginFi. And Camino was actually a beneficiary of this flame war between Save and MarginFi. At that time, Save was called Solend, but that was the OG fight, right? And so my counter argument to your counter argument
okay,
is
bring it
that
on.
one of the reasons why Camino got so popular during this whole Save versus MarginFi saga was that they were very much on the sidelines, just quietly building great product, right? And they didn't get involved on all the noise. But one huge difference between the Drift and Camino, Twitter spat versus Save and MarginFi is it actually did get very, very ugly. It was not about the protocols anymore. It was very much like, I hate your motherfucking face. Catch me at the conferences, bro. I will throw hands. Just kidding. It wasn't that far. But it did get, some people were called sons of female dogs. So it did get very, very spicy. But yeah, no, I don't know. I guess it's all friendly competition.
Yeah.
Simon, let me ask you a
Well,
question.
yeah.
No, for real. Like there's like another ID product, right? That launches on Solana, and this ID product claims to be a more efficient ZK way of proving a person's identity. They claim that they have more feature sets than you. They claim that you haven't been doing anything this entire time. We're the new kid on the block. Like, and they start just attacking your protocol, not you specifically. I'm just genuinely curious. Like, how would you try to approach that situation? Would you like reach out to the founder and be like, yo, chill?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the game as well, right? That we're playing here, and it's PR and it's marketing as well. Okay, let's just pull down the curtains. At the end of the day, sometimes these things also happen for a reason on Twitter because they're publicity. People talk about these things on podcasts and mention these protocols, right? Like it is publicity. So I would take the publicity and I would engage in the fight, and I'd go on Twitter and I would try my best to out compete the arguments of that other protocol with my own arguments, and I would fight the good fight, and I would preach my gospel, and that's what we do when we compete, right? Strategically, we play the chess game. We bring it out into the forum, into the publicity where people can watch us do it, fight it out. And then either it's going to be a win-win or a lose-lose or win-lose. We'll figure it out. But I think I would definitely engage in the fight, as long as it's not getting personal. As soon as it gets personal and people are actually getting emotional and things, are being said publicly that I don't agree with, I would reach out personally in a DM to people behind the scenes, and I would say, guys, let's take a step back here, because there's a hurdle, right? There's a line that you can cross with all this.
So this I think it's so interesting. You and I are very different temperamentally, because I think my first move is to reach out one on one and kind of get a vibe check. Like, is this for fun, or are you really icing me right now? And depending on that founder's answer, like if it's for fun, then I think I would do what you would do, which is like, all right, let's fuck
Yeah.
around on the timeline, and this just generates noise for both of us, so this is fun. This is a good debate, right? But if they actually
Yeah.
feel a type of way about it and are trying to back channel and talk bad about me behind my back, and like, or they're just refusing to engage, I think I go full war. I think I go fuck that guy. Like I
Yeah,
would go
that's
full
fine.
war
Yeah.
personally. But first you give them the first chance to see, like, okay, you just is this fun? Are we having fun? Is this a game? Or are you trying to murder me? Because if it's a game, I'll play. But if you're trying to murder me, then I'm going to murder you first. I think the right way of looking at it. But that's just me. I don't know. No right way to solve. There's no one way to solve interpersonal conflict. There's many ways. What's up?
I mean, I just want to say there's a line, and that's my final opinion on this. Like, if the line gets crossed, then I would probably even pull out, and I would ignore all the shit instead of going full force at some point, because there's companies. It's not
Interesting.
my personal, one versus one. There's my brand, my company on the line, and if if it starts getting ugly, I don't want to get caught in that mess for the sake of my company. Even if I personally would like to murder that guy, like, I would not do it publicly anymore. I would just pull out and ignore everything that happens, and at some, like, if you don't engage, the bully is going to stop at some point.
Man, just use me. I'm not a founder anymore. I can do more or less what I want, as long as it doesn't affect Sanctum. Like, I'll go full attack dog.
Good to know. I'll release my Eno. At some point, I will release my Eno. And you don't want me to release my Eno, guys. Don't attack me.
All you gotta say is woof, and I say no. All you gotta say is bark, and I'll say how loud. All right, just to who rough.
My
Um,
goodness. Before we close it down, my friend, I have one more thing that I wanted to mention here as well. Why? Because I think it is relevant right now, because everyone is talking about Accelerate, and I know it's still some
woo!
time until there, but I see so much on my timeline, and they do a lot of good marketing on Accelerate right now, and I think it's a good moment to just quickly shout out Accelerate. Solana Accelerate is going to be a US focused conference that is happening, obviously, where else? In New York City, in the United States of America, in May. And we're looking at two different types of conference you can attend. You can either go to Ship or Die, which is open for everyone, or you can go to the more developer focused conference, which is Scale or Die. But either way, you're going to die, which is great. But it's going to be in May from the 19th to 20th. It's Scale or Die. And from the 22nd to the 23rd in May, it is Ship or Die. I would just attend both of these if you can, and try to come over to New York. I think it's fair to say, that this might be one of the larger conferences this year, just for the publicity they are trying to make right now on all levels. Everyone is talking about Accelerate. So I think it's fair to say that it is, while it's not going to be another Breakpoint, it will be a similar caliber, I would say, of a Breakpoint conference, with most major Solana focus protocols being there attending the conference. And it's going to be a lot of US focus, which is also very interesting in a time where the United States is positioning themselves more pro crypto. So I think overall, Accelerate might be a very interesting conference coming up in May. And I just want to join the initiative of talking about it because I see it a lot happening on Twitter right now. So shout out to Solana conferences and to Accelerate.
Yeah, the original name for this conference was actually Midpoint. So that name in and of itself should give you the vibe that Accelerate will be. It was meant to be another Breakpoint, but in the middle of the year. Obviously, Breakpoint is the landmark conference for Solana Foundation, but Accelerate is extremely important. The person who's leading this entire effort, there's two main characters here. There's John Wong, who for the longest time was the head of engineering over at Solana Foundation, as well as Ellie Platisse, who is the head of the events team over at Solana. So they're partnering up. So Ellie is taking care of all the kind of back office production, and John Wong is taking care of the entire schedule. He had this tweet recently that said, "Rip my inbox." I'm sure that he has thousands of teams reaching out to him saying, "Can I please speak at Accelerate?" So we will see how that develops. I already have people who are like, "Could you introduce me to John?" It's like, bro, John's not even answering. Hey, John, if you're watching that, you're not watching this, but John, answer my fucking DMs. People want to talk to you, John. But no, seriously, they're doing God's work, and I'm really, really excited to be at New York. I know that you're going to be there as well. We have plans, Simon. We have secret plans. I'm excited for these secret plans. Should we give them a teaser?
Let's talk about the secret plans in the live stream after we finishing this beautiful episode, and then we're gonna announce these secret plans publicly in some of the next EPs at Sol Brothers when it's time again to go into the Solana rabbit hole. But for today, ladies and gentlemen, I will call it a day, and I will wrap this up for you. So it has been my pleasure, as usual, to host you together with my amazing co-host, for Sol Brothers EP. What are we? EP 19 already. So next time we're gonna have the 20 episodes in the box. Until then, you can watch Sol Brothers on Twitter in a long form format. You can watch it on YouTube in a long form format, and you can also tune in our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to follow us everywhere: Twitter, YouTube, and also on Apple and Spotify, whatever you prefer for your personal podcasting. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next one. Thank you, See you then, guys.
Adios.